The book of Isaiah, chapter 19, verse 15. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to give infinite honors and prayers to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rekah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and salutation to the occupants that's pushing the truth and sincerity. Lord willing, this video be edifying first and foremost to the whole elect, then to those that cleave to the body. All right, and it's gonna be a quick lesson on plant closures and layoffs hit America's biggest food brands in 2026. As we've been seeing, okay, there's been a layoff apocalypse, okay, throughout these major companies, which is a tall tale sign, all right, the downfall and the economical work, in a work field, all right, and through work, obviously people work so they can eat, okay, because if you don't work, you don't eat, all right, you can't pay your bills, you can't live, you can't get your necessities, okay, to provide you a stable life, all right. So, and the Lord is striking Egypt, okay. And Egypt is a place of bondage, which we know. So these companies going out of business is not, foreign to the men of the Lord, because we've been saying this was gonna happen. These major companies is buying out a lot of these smaller subsidiaries, all right, and making it one. So they all could be connected into that all these these Amazons and these these what you call them these these tech giants, they buying out a lot of the smaller stores as well, so it can be the big major players, all right, those major companies, okay. So you have let me read a little bit of this. It says major food manufacturers are slashing jobs and closing facilities across the US. All right. And a lot of people is losing their jobs to AI. All right. Which all those people that's losing their jobs, all right, and all the jobs are market, the major markets are merging with each other. Okay. So it can be most of these jobs is gonna go back to technocracy, man. Okay. It says major food manufacturers are slashing jobs and closing facilities across the U.S. as rising costs are shifting consumer habits and automation reshape the industry. Since January 2026, some of the biggest names in food and beverage have announced plant closures, restructuring efforts, and mass layoff affecting thousands of the workers nationwide. Okay, these ads is getting ridiculous at this point. It says Nestle and Tyson Food lead major cuts. All right. And we know, Tyson Food is a chicken company, and Nestle, is one of those brand companies uh owned by them gutter rats. Okay, to which Nestle controls a lot of the smaller companies. All right. It's like I probably have to look it up to actually show you. It's kind of like when you look in that bubble, all right, you have smaller companies, but they're all controlled by Nestle. Let me look it up. So lock it for that. All right. Let's say the companies Nestle control. The companies Nestle owns. Yeah, right there. All right. If you Nestle portfolio page, let me see real quick. That's not it. All right, let me go back. Slocky. I'm looking up on my other phone right here. Nestle manufacturer. Okay, let me see this. You know something? Let me type in who owns Nestle. So lucky for this. I should have probably had that right. I didn't know I was gonna who owns Nestle. So they put it under this global. This is not a publicly traded company that is owned by a single individual or parent entity. Its ownership is dispersed among millions of global shareholders and institutional investors and asset management firms and major institutional owners, including BlackRock and UBS. You see, so we already know who own BlackRock. All right. So these gutter rats is again they're closing these smaller chicken plants and companies. All right. Also, you know it can be a shop at one, man. All right, which ultimately leads is connected to the digital the digital C-Hub, man, where you know you scan or buy. All right. But let's go into a little bit more here. It says in February 2026, Nestle confirmed additional workforce reductions tied to its ongoing global restructuring plan, which includes thousands of job cuts over several years. The company has continued scaling back operations at select facilities in California and overseas. Tyson Foods implemented one of the year's largest food manufacturer layoffs earlier this year when it confirmed the closure of its Lexington, Nebraska beef processing plant. The shutdown impacted approximately 3,200 employees and was blamed on declining cattle supply and rising operating costs. All right. More brands announced layoffs in 2026. Several other major manufacturers have also cut jobs this year. In April 2026, they known announced 114 layoffs tied to operations at a New Jersey plant producing plant-based beverages. Del Monte, PepsiCo, uh, involving what's that? Changes involving Frito-Lay facilities, General Mills, Homo Mills, Kraft Heinz did 1,000 job cuts as the company paused plans to split into two businesses and launch a major restructuring effort under new CEO. Yeah. So what you're doing, you saying, is a shift in uh, the ownership, you know, of these major companies, which most of these, again, these tech giants is buying up a lot of the food plants. All right. They burned down a lot of the food plants. And also, Bill Gates bought a lot of the land. All right. The farmland across America, man. Okay. To start the, you know, the agriculture of the land. Start, you know, the stall the agriculture, the current agriculture, you know, the farmers, okay, to basically put them out of business, man. You know, so they can control the food. And again, you know, this is and ironically it's a chicken plant, you know. It says industry pressures continue building. Industry analysis say food manufacturers are increasingly turning to automation, consolidating production into larger facilities and cutting labor costs as inflation and weaker consumer demand pressure profits. And a lot of these companies, okay, when they are doing new plans, they're coming back with AI generated companies, all right, you know, with robots and you know robotic automations, okay, to replace labor costs, okay. It says for many companies, the closures represents the loss of long-standing manufacturing jobs that have supported local economies for decades. All right, that was the point. Okay. There you go. Tyson, massive Texas layoff sparked new fears across the beef industry. And this all the control of play on food, all right, are the things of need. Because remember, these devils have their hand in everything that's gonna come up in the set. We not ignorant to Satan devices. Let me get that. Okay. We know what this damn devil doing. Yep. This is 2 Corinthians 2:11. At least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And this one of these, again, this one of these the global elites plans is to shrink the food, all right, you know, in order to further oppress the people and suppress the people into really accepting that see help. All right, because without without natural access to food, with food supplies limited, all right, they can control the narrative of how people eat, how people could, the food consumption and amongst other things. All right, so this is targeted to wipe out, a lot of the places where, food is easily accessed, and then it's gonna have to go through what? A security clearance. You're gonna end up going through a security clearance with food, man. Just for food. All right. So you being a want of all things, man. Trying to find food, find water. All right. They want to sell you. They want to sell you your food and your water. All right. They won't give it to you anymore, and obviously, that's a mechanism of control. You control the food. You control the people, man. All right. The dearth. Okay. See, get it here. This Jeremiah 14:1, a word of Yahweh that came to to Jeremiah concerning the dearth. All right, let's look at this word dearth here. It's going to famine, but let's look it up here. Okay, concerning the dearth, because this place has been ran into the ground, man. The drought, see, destitution, you know, and obviously we know this dealing with food, but this is another way, to make things inaccessible. All right, is you gonna need permission for to get food and other things of need and necessity, man. All right, you getting being deprived of that. It's being cut off. See, make inaccessible, enclosed. They fencing it up, they withholding it. So they can push forth their an agenda. All right, because they need you to actually play by their rules. So they gonna control they gonna control or have the leverage of how you live and survive, man. You know, whether that's putting you in 15-minute cities, right, under total surveillance and other things. Even though we know, these mass layoffs is not coming for nothing, man. These windows is not darkening in this place for nothing. All right, that's being strategically done. You know, it says Judah mourning in the gates thereof language, they are black unto the ground. Yeah, Jake going through it, and the cry of Jerusalem is going up, and their nobles have sent their little ones to the waters. They came to the pits and found no water. They returned with their vessels empty. They were ashamed and confounded and covered their heads. So it's getting dark out here, man. It's gonna get to a point where it speak about in Nehemiah that people gonna start selling everything. All right. Let's see. Is it 5? I think it is. I know in 4 they says work is ridiculed. Yep, Nehemiah 5:3. Even though this was Jake's, all right, against their own people. Okay, but this is what's happening against our people. It says Nehemiah 5:3. Some also that said we have mortgages our land, vineyards, and houses that we might buy corn because of the dirt. See, that we also that said we have borrowed money for the king's tribute and that upon our lands and vineyards. Okay, so it's they have mortgaged their lands and vineyards and houses. So at some point, without working, you're gonna have to mortgage your vineyard, your houses. All right, and these layoffs are starting to affect, the average everyday people because AI is taking over, small businesses, man. I heard, like again, I'm always say it. I heard a lady at a corner store that's in a small area, say that she's out on work because of AI has removed them from the building. She's working remotely, but she like that's only gonna last so long, so she got to get her money out of them while she can. You know, but that was pretty much it. These layoffs, you know, it's gonna get extremely massive, and it's gonna continue to grow. All right, the food industry is shrinking. All right, food accessibility is shrinking. Jobs is being limited. All right, so ultimately, it's gonna push you in a corner to have to depend on this system. All right, and in order to continue in this system, to buy and sell, you're gonna have to receive a mark in your hand. All right, and we all know what that mark is according to the Book of Revelation, man. So everything is being pushed, all right, to that new enterprise, and you bowing down, man, to this image. So don't take it, trust in the Lord that He said none of His servants, you know, have little have you ever seen his righteous forsaken neither his seed begging bread, man. So regardless if we work or not, the Lord gonna make sure the men of the Lord eat. All right. And those who haven't served the Lord, they're gonna starve and they're gonna eat their children. But that was the point. So I don't want to write this out. It was out of fine. Till next time I say shalom.